What's up, everyone, and welcome to Northwestern's virtual tour today. We're going to be walking around the campus a little bit today, get to know Northwestern, get to know me a little bit. I currently have my mask on, as you can see. We're going to try to abide by any social distancing rules that we can. As you can see, not everyone in Evanston is currently trying to do that, but luckily we're not headed to any beaches today. I'm actually going to go ahead and take off my mask for some introductions, but I'm keeping it around just in case we get to any large groups. So once again, welcome to Northwestern's virtual tour. My name is Emily Coffey. I am a senior about to graduate from Northwestern. I'm a social policy major and religious studies double major with a minor in classical Greek. I'm from Orange County, California. And when I'm not giving tours or in the classroom, I'm the drum director of my performance group, Boomshaka. So that's just a little bit about me, and we'll go ahead and get started on the tour. So this is typically the time when I do some ground rules, but obviously there are not a lot of rules to be had when you're just on your computer at home, but I hope you're abiding by social distancing rules and things like that. The most I'll say is that I really hope you guys are asking lots of questions throughout this tour. Tours are really driven by your questions and what you want to know about the school. So that's what I want to make sure we get out of this tour today. Everything you want to know about the school can be answered. We're currently walking on South Campus. We were just in front of Evanston South Beach. And we're walking a little bit north campus, going to get to know the campus a little bit. We're located in Evanston, Illinois, which is just 12 miles north of the downtown Chicago Loop. So we have our nice little college town here in Evanston, but again, we're really, really close to that city. There are a ton of easy ways to get into the city. We have the L train, which is a public train that costs about $2.50 to get into the city. So it's a really good option. We have about 4 stops that are right along campus. There's also the Metro, which is a little bit more expensive, but it's also a little faster. It's $5 to get into the city. Also, you'll be surrounded by a lot of people in ties. That's one of the business transportation that people usually use. Probably the best way and the cheapest way to get into campus is on our inter-campus shuttle. So that's a shuttle that goes between this campus and our Feinberg Medical School and Pritzker School of Law downtown campuses. So that's a really easy way to get downtown. And like I said, it's the cheapest. It is free if you have your wild card, which is your student ID card. So Chicago's a really, really good option for Northwestern students. But again, we are located in Evanston, Illinois. I personally love being in Evanston. Like I said, it's a nice little college town here that we have. We're really close to downtown Evanston at the moment, probably about a 10-minute walk down that way. In addition to loving living in Evanston, we also love living on campus. Here at Northwestern, we live on campus for 2 years. So your first 2 years here, you'll be living on campus, whether that's in a dorm, a residential hall, residential college, residential community, or in Greek housing on campus. Those both count for your first 2 years here. After that, you are free to move off campus if you'd like. You absolutely don't have to. You can stay on campus all 4 years. We just like to say that it's not guaranteed housing. Of course, that being said, it's been about 35 years since someone got denied from living on campus. So if you want to live on campus, you almost absolutely can. We're currently walking by some residential buildings. If we want to pan over here, these are some residential colleges. We got a biker on your right over there. Okay, he's coming around. So these are residential colleges on campus. What that means is that they have a specific theme around them. So we're currently walking by the Communications Residential College and the International Relations Residential College. So if you're really interested in either of those topics, this is a really good option for you. All you have to do to apply to live in these colleges is write like a little paragraph about why you care about that specific topic, and you're free to live there. This is great if you want to live around like-minded people your first year here at Northwestern, but it's also really great if you want to get to know a bunch of different people. I have a friend who's a theater major, but she decided to live in Slivka, which is the engineering residential college on campus. She just wanted to get to know engineers. She felt like she wasn't going to get to know them otherwise. She said it was a really great experience, and they helped her with her math homework that quarter. So really, really good options for living here on campus. Cool, I'm going to take a sip of water. So again, like I said, you will be living on campus your first 2 years here. In addition to that, you're likely going to be on the dining plan when you come to Northwestern. When you come here, you're automatically on an unlimited dining. Go to any of the dining halls on campus, any amount of day you want. So you can go into the dining hall 3 times a day. You could go 6 times a day. You could only eat cereal all day if you want. It's totally up to you. College is all about freedom, and dining plans are one of those things. But it's a really good option We have 6 dining halls across campus. In addition to that, you also have some dining dollars on your wild card and with your meal plan, and you can use that at any of the restaurants on campus, as well as the Starbucks we have in our student union. That is a really important aspect for a lot of people, so I always like to mention it. Again, we're just kind of walking through some of these residential areas, but everything on Northwestern's campus is pretty close by. So even though we're kind of in a residential building area, we're also really close to a lot of the academic buildings around here. So we can kind of stop and take a look around where we are. So this is a South Campus Plaza right here. You've probably seen the Rock on a few of our other virtual tours. We're right behind it right now. Again, one of those really important spots here on Northwestern's campus, a great campus tradition. And it's surrounded by all of these buildings right here, which are mostly dedicated to the humanities. This building right here is one of my favorite. It's called Kresge Centennial Hall. It's called Kresge Centennial Hall because it was built for our Centennial at Northwestern. So that means 100 years after Northwestern was built, we built this building. Something that I like about that fact is that the building right next to it, this one right over here, is University Hall. That was actually our first building on campus. So there's like technically 100-year difference between these two buildings, which is like kind of crazy. First of all, because they made the architecture look so similar, and it's very impressive, but also just because it kind of shows how long Northwestern has been here. So again, these are some of our academic buildings on campus. Northwestern is really all about the academics, as we know. We're going to talk a little bit about what else Northwestern is about as we go through the tour. But something I just like to mention is that Northwestern really emphasizes how you can kind of get into any kinds of academics here. Rather than forcing you to take certain classes, they really want to make sure that you get to have a well-rounded liberal arts education. I personally came to Northwestern with only 2 goals in mind, and the first one of those was to never take calculus again, and the second one of those was to never take chemistry again. With the requirements that Northwestern sets forward, you don't have to do either of those things. So rather than having general education classes where, say, everyone has to take Calculus 101, everyone has to take English 101, something like that, we instead have a system called distribution requirements. So let's talk a little bit about distribution requirements in regards to the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences, which is our largest undergraduate college on campus. So the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences sets forth distribution requirements in 6 different areas, and all you have to do is take 2 classes in each of those areas in order to fulfill those requirements. Again, this is really great because you don't have to take a specific class if you don't want to. Like I said, I was never going to take chemistry after high school, but also really great because it allows you to expand your knowledge a little bit. So it kind of makes you take classes that are maybe a little bit outside of your comfort zone. I really do want to emphasize here, though, that Northwestern doesn't want to force you to take a class you don't want to, one, or a class that you don't think you'd be good at, two. That's really important to me. So I didn't have to take a class I thought I was going to fail. Instead, for my formal studies or math requirement, I took a linguistics class. And for my natural sciences requirement, I took a class called The Nature of Plants. And it was really awesome because I just got to walk around campus all day and look at trees and stuff, which was really great. And also I kind of use it in regular life now. So one of those things that you just don't expect. Awesome. So currently we were walking up on one of my favorite spots on Northwestern's campus. It's called Deering Library. We'll just pause here for a little bit. I like Deering Library so much in part because it's so beautiful. In a few weeks, or actually in 1 week, I'll be graduating and we're definitely planning to take our graduation pictures here. But Deering is also one of the 3 libraries we have on campus. I always like to point this out because I was one of those people that we actually currently have some grads coming to take pictures right here, so it's going great. I always like to point out that Northwestern has many different spaces to study on campus. So you don't have to do just one type of studying if you don't want to. I personally feel very confined by spaces that are really quiet, that have really large stacks, things like that. So I prefer more of like a coffee shop vibe for studying. So instead of studying in a place like Deering, I like to study in a place with large windows and coffee that's always around. But some of my friends really enjoy, which is 24 hours silent. Again, a really beautiful spot and just a really good option. So I just like to mention that to make sure that you all know that Northwestern has a ton of different study spaces and things like that. Okay, we'll go ahead and keep on walking straight a place like Deering, especially so our graduate friends can get some pictures up here. So typically on a day like this, you can definitely see people kind of hanging out around Northwestern. That would probably be more common if we weren't in the middle of a global pandemic, but that's okay. I love to point out this field all the time. You've probably heard that this was our first football field, but it is currently the field that is most popularly used by the Ultra Frisbee team. They love to come out here and throw the Frisbee around. Also, you can often see a bunch of people playing spike ball and things on the meadow when it's a really nice day, like I said. Like all of our green spaces on campus, it is covered by Wi-Fi, so if you want to do workout on the meadow, you definitely can. So like I mentioned before, Deering is one of our 3 libraries on campus. Again, I call it the beautiful library for obvious reasons. It is the most beautiful library on campus, in my opinion. We're about to come up on the ugly library. So even though it is not our prettiest library on campus, University Library is our largest. It holds the majority of our research materials on campus. And in addition to that, it has a lot of other resources for students. So not only does it have all these research materials, books, online forums, different things like that, but we also have research librarians in this library who can definitely help you learn how to research. That's absolutely important on Northwestern's campus. And we'll talk a little bit more about how research happens inside and outside of the classroom here in a little bit. But in addition to those librarians, we also have other resources. There's a place called the Writing Place in University Library, which is a really great spot. It's where you can take a thesis statement, an outline, just any number of pages from an essay you have, and kind of get help on learning how to write an actual college essay. So this can be really helpful, especially in your first few years here. You don't come to college absolutely prepared for everything. And so these resources are really good ways to help you start preparing for those classes and learn how to write your first college essay, which might come in the first few weeks when you get here. So those people are always here to help you out. I did mention that it is an ugly library, but it's actually pretty cool. We have all of these different stacks and towers around here, a bunch of different places to study. And like I mentioned before, even within this library itself, there's just kind of a bunch of different spaces that hold a bunch of different options for however you study best. So like I said, I like something that's like a cafe. So Cafe Bergson is really nice right over there. But other people prefer really quiet spaces, so the stacks on the 5th floor. So what we're standing in front of right now is Norris University Center. It's our student union on campus. It's kind of the center for students on campus. Like I mentioned before, we do have a Starbucks here. This is right where the Starbucks is. So it's very important to note for all of you who are already coming here, this is where the Starbucks is. But it also has a lot of other stuff in it. It's kind of the center for student organizations on campus. We have over 400 student organizations on campus, which is a lot of clubs happening. But if you come to Northwestern and we don't have something that you want, it's also super easy to start a club. All you have to do is grab a few friends, get a faculty or staff member to be your advisor, sign some papers, and you have yourself a registered student organization. So because of the ease at which you can create these clubs, we have some really, really niche organizations on campus. We have something called the Heckling Chess Club. We have a regular chess club, but we also have a chess club that like heckles each other while they play chess, which is just kind of random and like a very specific thing that you want on your college campus, but we have it. We also have a fine wine and cheese club. You do have to be 21 to enter the club, but Northwestern student government literally allots money each quarter for this club to just buy fine wine and cheese and enjoy it together. So again, another really specific thing that people want to do on campus, but just an opportunity we have here. In addition to these smaller clubs, we also have really large clubs on campus. For example, Northwestern University Dance Marathon. It's our largest organization on campus. They raise over $1 million each year for a beneficiary of their choice. Unfortunately, it was canceled this year, but the money was still raised. It still went to the beneficiary. We still have an opportunity to create those relationships with our Chicagoland and Evanston community through that organization. In addition to Northwestern University Dance Marathon, another large organization on campus is called Mayfest. They put on something called Armadillo Day or Dillo Day every year. Also canceled this year, but do not fret. They still had a virtual Dillo Day. It was really fun. I sat on the Lakeville, which is just this nice strip of land out here that we're going to see in a little bit. And I listened to some online virtual concerts, and it was really great, just from, artists' couches, which was cool. But again, those are some of the larger groups on campus. I really want to emphasize that you can really get into whatever you want here at Northwestern, and student organizations is one of the ways to do that. So we'll keep walking here past Norris. So this is the spot I like to stop at. again, a really beautiful view. We got to capture that view. You can see fake Michigan, which is our little Lakeville area. And then from here, you can see a bunch of buildings on North Campus. So the first one I want to point out is this large glass building right over here. That's the new Kellogg Global Hub. So that's our graduate school for business and management. It's really awesome to have a graduate school that's kind of right around campus, because that means that we have the influence of the Kellogg Business School right here on campus. It's especially good for business because we don't have an undergraduate business major. There are a lot of reasons for this, but I do want to emphasize you can still get into business if that's something you're interested in. Next to undecided, the most common major we have in Northwestern is economics. So if you're interested in business, that's a really good option for you. But we also have some opportunities to get certificates and minors that are specifically in the Kellogg School of Business. So that means while you're an undergraduate student, you can take classes at the Kellogg School of Management. So that's a really, really awesome option as well if you're interested in business. Also, it's just a really pretty building. Technically, they don't allow undergraduate students in there most of the time, but if you like dress kind of nicely and you walk in there and pretend you know what you're doing, no one really notices. So I would suggest going up to the 5th floor whenever we're allowed back on campus. There's a beautiful view of Chicago. It's just a really awesome opportunity to see some of the new buildings that Northwestern is building. But again, another opportunity to see how beautiful our campus is. If you look just to the left of that building, that tan and green building over there is Silverman Hall. That's the start of the research quad on campus, which you might have seen in a few other virtual tours. I always like to point out the research quad because I was very much one of those undergraduate students who didn't think I was going to be getting into research at all. I came onto campus and I was like, I'm not a STEM person. That's not something I'm going to do. In reality, I was wrong. I ended up writing a senior thesis, which is a form of research that we have on campus. And I utilized a lot of the grant money that Northwestern has for research. Northwestern actually allots $3.5 million to undergraduate research each year, which is a lot of money. It's very easy to access. All you have to do is write a grant, submit it. They even help you write the grant so that you can actually get the money from them. I wrote a summer undergraduate research grant last summer. I got $3,500 for living expenses to live in Evanston and conduct research for my senior thesis. And then during the year this year, I got a grant of $1,000 for the academic year undergraduate research grant and was able to kind of complete that research throughout the year. Again, I really want to emphasize that this doesn't have to be just STEM research, although there are people on campus that are doing a lot of that type of research here. For example, one of my friends, Jake, he worked with a 3D printer all year 1 year, and basically just kind of learned how to print baby limbs for babies that are born without limbs. So he's like literally changing lives, which is low key and cool. But we also have a lot of other stuff going on campus, a lot of humanities-based research. I always like to talk about my friend Morgan, who last summer also received a summer undergraduate research grant. And she used it to study women in the comedy scene in Chicago. So all summer she just went to comedy shows, went to rehearsals, got to laugh a lot. And then instead of doing just a formal research paper, which is kind of what people typically do after finishing their research, she did what's called creative research. So instead of writing a paper, she actually just wrote an album about the women in comedy in Chicago. So she was just singing and songwriting all summer. And Northwestern, again, literally paid her to do that. So really cool opportunities to just get to explore the things that you're interested, both inside your majors and your academia, but also kind of outside of it and get to really explore those passions. A few other things I'll point out while we're here. If you look over there, I don't know if you'll be able to see it really on this video, but just to the right of the Kellogg Global Hub, there are some goalposts. That's where the lakeside field is. It's the home of our soccer and lacrosse fields. It is not actually our football field. Our football field is in fact like a 25-minute walk north and west from here, but it doesn't feel that long on a game day. And we actually have a lot of shuttles that take you directly to the field on game day. They pick you up from all over campus. So it's really, really easy to get out there and support our football team that often loses, but we still really care about. Northwestern is the only school in the Big Ten that has free admission into our games, or as I love to say on tours, it is admission that is already included in tuition. So we get to go to any of those sports games absolutely free the day of. All you have to do is bring your student ID. They'll scan it for you and you get to go see and support the Cats. Again, even if we're not doing the best in our leagues, it's still really, really fun to go see them. And also sometimes we like really kill it. Like the women's basketball team this year absolutely killed it, and different things like that. One year we even went to the Big Ten championships in Indianapolis. That was crazy. Someone donated to Northwestern so we could charter like a bunch of buses and get 2,000 students to go. So that was a really, really fun opportunity as well. So always a chance to get to love the Cats. If you're not into D1 sports, we also have club sports on campus and intramurals. Those are kind of varying degrees of committedness. And if you like to be active but you're not into sports at all, we also have 3 gyms across the campus, the largest one of them being the Henry Crown Sports and Pavilion and Aquatic Center. Sorry, I just forgot that for a second. Aquatic Center is always important to point out because people always ask if we have a pool on campus, and like we do. I don't really know why people care so much, but just something to note. Last thing I'll point out while we're here, you can kind of see this strip of land, and we'll keep walking around this so that we can see it. This strip of land out here is called the Lakeville. It's one of my favorite places on Northwestern's campus. So we don't actually have like a quad or central part of campus, but I think that the Lakeville is a pretty good option if you don't have a quad. So it's this nice strip of green land right out here that kind of just goes along Lake Michigan. You can sit out there, look at the lake. There's a beautiful view of Chicago. And again, like all of our green spaces, it's covered in Wi-Fi. So I got to watch Digital Dillo out there. But also I sometimes like to just like watch Netflix, do work, things like that. Right on out in Lakeville. On a typical day, you'll see a ton of students hanging out there. The Lakeville is also home for short, like I mentioned before. It is the largest student-run music festival in the country. Typically, on a June or May day, you'll have all the students out here enjoying music, eating from food trucks, just having a really good time. It's also one of the few days that the libraries are closed for a few hours on campus, just because our president, Morton Shapiro, really wants everyone to get out, enjoy the sun, enjoy the music, and enjoy each other's time. So again, Lakeville is one of the best spots if you guys decide to come out here and visit the campus in real life. So once we round this corner, we'll kind of be in view of the Beanan School of Music building. It's a really, really beautiful building on campus. Again, it's one of those newer buildings here, part of our building boom at Northwestern. But it is the home of the Beanan School of Music, as well as the School of Communications. So those are our 2 ways to get into arts on campus through academia. So you can either be in the Beanan School of Music, be a performance major or something like that. Music education is also a really popular one. Or you could be in the School of Communications, which houses our theater, dance, radio, television, and film departments. So those are kind of the arts part of your major and make them part of your academic time here at Northwestern. We also have a lot of opportunities to get into the arts outside of academia. And it's one of my favorite parts about Northwestern, actually. Everyone really gets into the arts. And in addition to our academics and our athletics, I think the arts on campus is kind of one of our best traits. Like I mentioned before, I am personally in a performance group, so I'm possibly a little bit biased about this. But it's just one of those things that's really fun. The performance group that I'm in is called Boomshaka, the drum, dance, and rhythm group. A little bit like Stomp, if you've ever heard of that. I don't really know if any of you are old enough to have heard of that. You can ask your parents what it is. It's a really fun group on campus, and it's been around since 1997, which is kind of cool. That is a year before I was born, a few years before many of you were born. Which is kind of one of those ways the Northwestern student groups can also kind of be legacies. Another legacy on this campus is our comedy scene here. It's kind of a little known fact about Northwestern, but we have a lot of really funny people that go here. Some of our funniest alumni are Seth Meyers, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who I once met at the Michigan basketball game. That was really fun. So we have some really funny alumni from around here. One of my favorite comedy groups on campus is called Meow. They say that they're 1/3 improv, 1/3 during winter quarter. You can expect all of those things. What's even funnier than the show itself is trying to watch all of Northwestern fit into the small black box theater where they perform the show. So kind of one of those things that everyone on campus can get behind, whether you're into the arts or you're not. So something I always like to point out. In addition to that, we have a lot of ways to get into like music. If you play an instrument, if you sing, we have 14 a cappella groups on this campus. 15 if you count the a cappella group called Media a cappella, which is for mediocre singers. And they really are mediocre. It's incredible. Or if you play an instrument, you can get into orchestra, concert band, or some of the garage bands we have on campus. So always something I like to point out. There's just a ton of ways to get involved in the arts if you really want to here. This is the Beanan School of Music building that we're coming up on now. I don't know how well you can see it, but you can definitely see that it's a really beautiful view of Lake Michigan. So at the least, you know that they have a pretty good view over there at Beanan. So we'll pause right here just for a second, just so that we can see that beautiful view of Chicago. Chicago right behind me. This is the view that convinced me to go to Northwestern many, many years ago. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But right now, I just want to talk about how close we are to Chicago and how important that is to the way Northwestern functions and the different things that we can do with being close to such a world-class city. So the first thing is that we have a bunch of different programs that involve getting internships, doing volunteering work, and different things like that in the city of Chicago. Each school kind of has their own version of that. I'm personally in the School of Education and Social Policy, so I always like to talk about the Practicum. So the Practicum is a required course. It counts for like 4 credits during your time. Um, and it's a required internship that you do between your sophomore and senior year when you're in CESP. So you can either do that practicum in the city of Chicago during the year, or over the summer you can do it at our San Francisco campus or our Washington, D.C. campus. I personally did it during winter quarter of my junior year, and it was an amazing time. I worked at a nonprofit called 826 Chicago, where I got to work with a bunch of kids after school for their tutoring and writing program. Again, a really amazing experience and a really great way to get into Chicago and learn more about the city that we were so close to. And again, it's a required course if you are in the School of Education and Social Policy. I will also mention one more time that it is 4 credits, and it was the first 4.0 I ever got, so not a big deal. So really, really amazing opportunities to do that. In other schools, there are different versions of it. So, for example, in Weinberg, there's the Chicago Fields program. In Medill, you have the journalism residency program, which can happen both in Chicago and outside of Chicago. They have a ton of different resources and networks that you can jump into and be a part of. All this to say that Northwestern is really about making sure that you don't just like learn in the classroom, but you're also able to apply that learning outside of the classroom, whether that's going and doing an internship, going to do some volunteering work, researching and exploring outside of the things you can do in the classroom. All of this is really, really important to Northwestern, so I always like to emphasize that. We'll go ahead and keep walking for a little bit. So this is where we'll go ahead and finish off where our tour. At the end of our tours, we always like to talk about our why Northwestern. So if you're applying to Northwestern, you know that we have one supplemental essay question. It's called Why Northwestern. Very simple, just answering the question, why do you want to come here above any other school? So we as tour guides like to answer that question just to give you all a little bit of insight to why we decided to come here. So like I said before, the view behind me kind of convinced me to come to Northwestern many years ago. I actually visited Northwestern when I was 13 years old. I was dragged here by my older sister who was visiting the school, and I was very upset about it. But it was like 70 degrees. It was a pretty nice day like this one. I saw that view and I was pretty convinced to come here. 4 years later, when I was actually applying to college, I decided to come back, visit again, and see if Northwestern was actually somewhere I wanted to go. And I kind of realized that Northwestern was telling me everything I needed to hear. At 17, I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to major in, much less what I wanted to be for the rest of my life. And Northwestern was kind of one of the very few places that was telling me they wanted me to come here and actually figure it out. They want you to take a bunch of different classes, learn so many different things, figure out what you're actually passionate about, and then they'll teach you how to apply that into the real world. And I've really found that to be true. And I hope that you all have seen that today on my tour a little bit. The last thing I'll say is just Northwestern is kind of like the Goldilocks of schools. It's not too big, it's not too small. They have the athletics, they have the arts, they have the academics. They have their own college town, this beautiful campus we just walked, but we're also so close to an amazing city. Just like a ton of opportunities here in Northwestern. I really, really hope you all saw that today on your tour. I apologize if you didn't. I'm just a bad tour guide. And virtual is maybe kind of weird. I don't know. But please ask as many questions as you can. I hope you all have enjoyed your tour today. With that, go Cats, everyone.